Okay, so welcome to your first lesson in evolution, which kicks off our final unit in grade 11 biology. And it's a really good follow-up to our genetics unit because hopefully by now you understand what alleles are. And evolution is really looking at how allele frequencies or percentages can change in populations over time. And you'll see that as a general theme in this lesson. One thing I wanted to point out before we get started is we've provided you with another glossary, and please try to use this as we go through, as it will be helpful for your next learning check. But as always with biology, there's a lot of terminology, and a lot of this will be new for you. So it'll make it easier to summarize the information if you keep track of these terms as we go throughout the unit. So the first part in lesson 1 that I would like you guys to try is this kind of myth or fact statements. And it's really important to address some of the misconceptions that people might have about evolution before we actually begin. So pause the video here and give that a try. And thank you to those of you that actually did pause the video and attempt to do these on your own. We'll take up the answers to these now, and if there's any questions about them, as always, post them in teams. So the first statement says, evolution is a process that explains the origin of life. And I'll just zoom in here so it's easier to see. That statement is a myth. Get rid of the second answer there. So evolution does not explain how life came to be on Earth. Evolution instead tries to explain how life has changed over time. And so there's a key difference in there. There are other theories that try to address how life began on Earth, but evolution just is simply looking at how life has changed over time. Okay? Your second statement, which you've probably already seen the answer to, says, according to evolution, humans evolved from monkeys a long time ago. And if there's one thing you're going to learn in this unit to take away with you, it's that humans did not evolve from monkeys. We evolved from an ape-like ancestor. It's why when we look at our phylogeny, or where we're placed on the evolutionary tree, we're grouped with the great apes. So you might have seen a picture like this before. Okay, that's trying to show human evolution over time. This organism right here is not a monkey. It would be a type of great ape. Okay, and so an importance there, monkeys have tails, and that's one easy way to remember it. So we did not evolve from monkeys. I know a lot of people think that, and there's cartoons that show images like that, but we did not evolve from monkeys. Okay. Statement 3, evolution was first proposed and explained by Charles Darwin. So hopefully we have an idea of who Darwin is. He's kind of the father of evolution. But this statement is also a myth. He wasn't the first to propose the idea of evolution. He proposed the idea of natural selection. And we'll talk about that in our next couple of lessons. But natural selection is only one mechanism by which evolution can actually occur. So, an important difference there. Okay, so statement 4 says, evolution is something that only occurred in the past. It is not happening now. And hopefully this one's a bit easier to identify. And you can relate to the fact that evolution is not just going to be a thing of the past. Gene frequencies can still change in species over time. So it definitely still can and is happening now in various species. So that is also a myth. Statement 5, evolution is something that happens to individual organisms. When you read this, you'll probably think, yeah, that's true. Because let's take an example and say Carl has a baby, Carl Jr., and Carl Jr. has 6 toes and 6 fingers. So you would say, oh, Carl Jr. has evolved to have, an extra digit on his hands and feet. But that is something we address as a mutation, not evolution. Evolution has to occur within a population, and it has to be passed on over time. So if Carl Jr. never passes on his 6 fingers and 6 toes, then there has been no evolution. It was just a mutation, and that mutation wasn't passed on. And most of the time when we look at mutations are actually going to lower the fitness or the health of an organism. But sometimes they can lead to beneficial traits, and that's something we'll explore more as we go throughout the evolution unit. So this is indeed a myth. The key is that evolution has to happen in populations. And again, you'll see that lower in the lesson. Number 6, in order to accept evolution as a real process, you cannot believe in God. So, as we addressed in the first one, evolution is not trying to explain how life began. So, it is possible that you can be religious and believe in God or gods, whatever religion you may be, and still accept that evolution is a real process that has led to change in species over the existence of the earth. So, you can have both. They don't necessarily have to contradict each other. It's more when some people of certain religions don't acknowledge that change in life can happen naturally instead of by a greater being or deity. Number 7, the formation of complex structures like the eye can be explained by evolution. That is a fact. Evolution can lead to enhancements in certain structures, can lead to adaptations, can lead to a species becoming more fit over time. It doesn't always do that, but it does help to explain how complex structures have arisen over time, and especially when you look at evolution within a certain kingdom. So if we look at evolution within the animal kingdom, and you might remember from earlier on in our biodiversity unit, looking at very simplistic animals like sponges and how those progress to more complex organisms like mammals or amphibians and reptiles, etc., the vertebrates. Statement 8, evolution results in progress. Organisms are constantly improving through evolution. So this kind of relates to number 7, but like I just addressed, it doesn't mean that organisms will always be improving. Ideally, adaptations are going to help organisms be more fit for their environment, but evolution is not something you can just pick and choose which traits you want. So it doesn't mean that the organisms or the population, the species, will always be improving. Statement 9, evolution only occurs slowly and gradually. And the keyword here obviously is only. Yes, evolution can occur slowly and gradually. And this is probably, the case for most of the time when we look at how species have changed over time. But evolution can also happen very rapidly. And if you think of microscopic organisms, single-celled organisms like bacteria, you'll hopefully remember that their replication rates are going to be very high, or they can replicate very quickly. So in these cases, populations can change more quickly over time, and mutations can build up in populations more quickly over time. And so that can lead to changes in allele frequencies and lead to changes in genes that are present in a population. And one of the common examples that you see within bacteria is the development of antibiotic resistance. That happens because of mutations in bacterial DNA. And those traits, if it makes the bacteria more likely to survive because it wouldn't be killed off by certain antibiotics, then those traits are going to be passed on to further generations, and you would see the bacteria population change over time to be more resistant. So that statement is a myth. And then our last statement, humans are currently evolving. So this one's kind of weird to think about, because when you think about your parents and yourself and grandparents, you probably think, we haven't really changed all that much over time. It's not like, grandma used to have purple eyes and now that's just been weaned out of our population. But you have to remember, we have thousands and thousands of genes. And like we mentioned earlier in the beginning of the video, evolution is simply changes in allele frequencies in a population over time. So it is very likely, if we look and compare our genome over the last thousands of years, that human allele frequencies in the human population are likely still changing. albeit it might be a very small percentage. But if there is change, then we can say, yes, there is evolution going on. So we'll say that's a fact. Okay, so the next part of the lesson is actually starting to take a look at what evolution is, and we've kind of already addressed it above, but you can pause the video here and watch this stated clearly video. It does a really good job of illustrating what evolution looks like and how it has to occur within populations. So it's about an 8 to 9 minute video, but it gives you some really good illustrations. Once you get the point, you can stop the video. You don't need to watch the whole thing, but it does talk about various traits. It looks at like amoebas, and you're looking at other types of organisms and what evolution might look like within those populations. So give that a quick view. And I've kind of summarized the main idea for you here is that evolution is descent with modification. So descent being in relation to passing on traits, modification being change. So traits changing and being passed on over time. And what we want to start to highlight is the difference between micro and macro evolution. Micro is small, right? So this is small scale evolution. It happens within the genes, within your allele frequencies. Macro evolution, large scale evolution, is looking at how species can become separated because of these changes and then result in speciation, or the result in a new species being formed. So the first half of our evolution unit, we're going to look at microevolution, how allele frequencies can actually change over time, and then we'll get to macroevolution that looks at speciation and how new species are formed. So after you've watched the video and read that over, the next part is to address the 5 microevolutionary forces that can actually lead to allele frequencies changing in populations. And again, there's another video, and I know you're watching a lot of videos in this lesson, so if you would prefer, you can just open up the PowerPoint instead. But the video does, again, a really good job of illustrating examples of these, and so it might help you better understand it. And what I would like you to do is summarize just quickly what these 5 microevolutionary forces are. Later on in this unit, we're going to explore these 5 forces in more detail, so you don't have to go crazy. Just point form about what this mechanism of evolution actually is and how it would lead to allele frequencies changing. Okay, and then to summarize your learning, I would like you to answer these 3 thought questions, and if you're struggling to answer them, this is great questions to post in the discussion board in Teams. So don't be shy, and if you're having trouble with that, ask. And then you can start to fill in your key terms chart either at the bottom here, or you can populate that in your glossary.